any of you who were online on Twitter the other day saw a video that was posted. And that video is, well, the fact that it was posted at all is more than a little mean-spirited. It's a video of a Holiday Inn Express worker having a mental breakdown while being harassed by a person recording them with a camera. We're going to watch that video very briefly, and if you don't want to watch it, that's totally fine. It's not the nicest video.
Because you all made a mistake?
Not really, no.
So you want to get mad and hit the computer because you made a mistake? Because your company made a mistake? You want to take it out on me?
I'm not taking it out on you.
So why did you get mad and hit the computer? Why did you get mad and hit the computer?
Because I have mental.
I'm sure you're on camera, right?
Yeah, I am.
I'm sure you're on camera. So this is the type of people they have working here.
I gotta go, man. I gotta go. You ruined my life. You ruined my whole life, man.
And we can just cut it here. So it turns out that prior to that video's recording beginning, that customer was calling the worker homophobic slurs. The worker suffers from BPD and some schizophrenic symptoms. Now, there were some posts made from a person who alleges to be them. Vosh, why'd you play this? It was wholly unnecessary to play this. I disagree. I think it's very important to know exactly what is being mocked here. So, oh, hey, that's me. Yes, I have BPD with schizoactive tendencies. This is not one of my best moments. Mental illness is real, and it can literally destroy lives. This is a good wake-up call just to stop being in this industry. It took me 5 years to break out of hospitality because I've just had enough. That is true. Hospitality work is brutal. Please value yourself, love yourself. You are worth more than this soul-crushing job and the public's bullshit. And I continued to type. This was me at the end of my rope. While I have now quit this position, my management supported me and told me that I was welcome back. The guest, the filmer, was ejected from the hotel for escalating issues with staff and the owners. I do have mental disorders. I suffer from BPD and schizoaffective disorders. What this fine 5'5" bald gentleman behind the camera, ooh, the shade, knows how to hit and take a hit, didn't record was the fact that he called me an F-slur for an associate's mistake. He was aggressive and fishing for a reaction. He sure got it, and I'm glad this was a wake-up call for me to stop slaving away for corporations who do not care about you at all, or the guests. Based. Right before he started his recording, I told him I have a mental illness and I need a moment to think, before he just kept going and going and going before it came too much. Now, here's a critical question to you fine people, okay? Now, obviously, the first take that a person would arrive at here... oh, sorry, I missed the last line. My apologies. That being said, it was a huge wake-up call for me to get out of that industry. I would really like to be a streamer, but that's hard to do today. The future absolutely terrifies me, but at least I made this person's day by giving them Reddit points. Though I know not this person's name, I just want them to know that in case they ever see this, if they ever contact me, I will be happy to give them pointers of getting started. I will have them on soon after they begin streaming. I'm happy to support you to the extent that I can. Not to virtue signal or anything, but yeah. Anyway, so this person alleges to be them. It seems to be them. It seems odd that somebody would... I mean, it seems corroborated that that is indeed that person. So the flatline take is this one. The flatline take is this. This is horribly ableist. And it is, you know? We take for granted our mental well-being up until we don't have it. It's very strange. See, one thing I could never fathom when I was 8 years old was lower back pain. Couldn't even imagine it. But then, when I was in college, I threw out my back deadlifting. And then I could imagine it. It was really possible for me to imagine it. Before throwing out my back doing deadlifts with poor form, I could gesture at what back pain might feel like. I mean, certainly my back had been sore in the past, but the idea of not being able to stand up from a sitting position, that was completely alien to me. It's like, what? No, I'm going to be healthy and young forever. Of course, I'm doing better now than I was then, but sometimes it's really difficult to understand what something feels like until you've experienced it yourself. And we've all had bad days, but bad days aren't mental illness. Mental illness is complicated, and there's no organ on Earth more complicated than the human brain. It's very difficult to try to understand. The most we can really do is sympathize sometimes. I'll tell you this right off the bat. I don't know what schizoactive disorders feel like. I can't even imagine. So all I can really do is sympathize. I can say that's probably very hard, and I'll try not to be shitty about it. I do know what depression feels like. And for that reason, I can be directly empathetic. I know I can directly relate to my experiences with regards to others. Not everyone has suffered from mental illnesses. Not everybody has experienced some severe mental breakdown that would maybe give them an insight into this. But I'm just going to give a general take because there's more I want to say on this issue. Be respectful. Come on. Come on. Seriously. Look, I'm not going super duper woke scold on this. If a person's freaking out online, you can still call them like if a person's in your mentions being like, excuse me, I explicitly typed up that Lucina from Final Fantasy is my OC and my waifu, and you posting lewd images of her is a rejection of our bot. Like, okay, you can call that person crazy, go for it. I don't care. I'm not saying, we're not prescribing anything wild here, okay? But if a person's having a hard time, is there a Lucina from Final Fantasy? I don't know. There have been like 15 of them, okay? That's Fire Emblem? Oh, I don't know. I don't care. I don't care. But if a person's going through a hard time, then you should be sympathetic to that to the best of your extent. The person behind that camera was really shitty. Now, let me ask you all a question. Was there anything that young man did that was racist? No, I didn't see anything even slightly racial there at all, actually. Like, nothing. Well, the original video was posted by a Twitter account called Freddie Gibbs, and that Twitter account initially captioned it, something, look at this white boy, hope nobody ever gives him a gun, or something like that. People told him to delete it. Music enjoyer over here. And Freddie Gibbs said, no, I won't. And then he went on to posture like an internet tough guy on his Twitter account, saying that, who's up next? Who am I taking down next? And so on and so forth, This also got posted by remarkable person, Tariq Nasheed, over here. A white Holiday Inn Express worker had a nervous breakdown after he got scolded by a black customer because of a mistake in the reservation system. 11,000 quote tweets, 7,000 likes. Now, before we go any further, I want to make it totally clear that Tariq Nasheed is an inverse universe neo-Nazi is. He is prescriptively identical to a Nazi. This is what people say when they say Hotep, okay? Anti-Semitism, anti-race mixing, believes in the racial superiority of black people. And you know what? Somebody dug this quote up, and this is just great. In slavery, there was a tactic called buck breaking, where slave owners would sexually violate African males to break them down psychologically. The new buck breaking tactic is where white supremacists use their N-word flunkies to shame black men into having sex with transsexuals. Now that is a good tweet right there. He managed to pack a lot. I could think for hours on a tweet like this. Like, how can I maximize the harm to the world? How can I... I've said this before on Twitter, but I think Tariq Nasheed might actually be the key to American political unity because everybody hates him. See, everyone progressive hates him because he's a black Nazi, essentially, just with the roles flipped. And everyone on the right hates him because he's a black Nazi with the roles flipped. So he's, The only people who like him are black people who are reactionary but anti-white. And, well, before we talk any more about Tariq Nasheed, I want to describe a term that's often used, okay? It's called race baiting. Now, this is used all the time by conservatives. Conservatives love to use this term, race baiting. And when conservatives use it, what they mean is stop bringing up racism. That's what conservatives mean when they say somebody's race baiting. So, for example, there are plenty of people who will say that BLM referring to George Floyd's murder as a racial issue is race baiting. And it's true that, to the best of my knowledge, there's no evidence that George Floyd's murder was directly racially motivated. We don't have any evidence from the testimony indicating that Chauvin acted with any explicit racial bias. And you can never know if it's implicit, of course. We don't know what's in people's heads. However, the discussion of George Floyd's murder in the context of a broader issue that black Americans have with the police is, in my mind, completely acceptable. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to say. We are having a national crisis with police mistreatment of black people, and here is a black guy who got fucking murdered. Maybe there's a relationship here, you know? I think that's fine. I think that's totally justified. But sometimes race baiting is a real thing. Funnily enough, it's a thing that conservatives like to do all the time. Paul Joseph Watson is a really, really big fan of this. What Paul Joseph Watson will do is Paul Joseph Watson will post a video of a street fight. Good old-fashioned street fight, honest and earnest. Now, if this street fight was being had between a bunch of Nordic Chads, the Nazis would be jerking themselves off raw until their balls shriveled up because from the sheer testosterone of it all, you know? But Paul Joseph Watson doesn't post videos of Nordic Chads getting into street fights. He posts videos of black people getting into street fights. Almost always black people. If there are white people in those street fights, they're usually the victims of black violence. If they're present there, they're usually trying to leave the scene, or they're clocked out by one of the black people there. Now, street fights happen everywhere. Bar fights happen everywhere. This is a culturally completely ambivalent, like everyone does this. You can go into Africa, you can go into China, you can get anywhere this happens, okay? My God. Bar fights. This is like a key component of humanity. Christ, go to Ireland, you know? But Paul Joseph Watson just posts the black people. And the reason why he does this is because he's trying to make a point about multiculturalism, which is the term he uses because if he said, I don't want black people in my country, he wouldn't be on Twitter for very long. Or at least, maybe. I don't know what Twitter lets people get away with these days. Race baiting is a real thing. And it's often used by reactionaries who want to project racial antagonism where it doesn't exist to further a narrative of mutual hatred. With that being said, here's Tariq Nasheed. A white Holiday Inn Express worker and a black customer. Nothing about this had anything to do with race. But if you look through the comments, and we could scroll through for a million. Now, by now it's been ratioed, so the top comments are going to be from good people like Dylan Burns. But if you scroll through for long enough, you will find hundreds, thousands even, of comments from, to be perfectly fair, mostly black people who are sharing in the sentiment, oh, how dare that white boy, white people need to learn when to shut the fuck up, etc., etc. Race baiting is bad. You see, everyone on Earth benefits from us all getting along, and I think we'd be perfectly capable of getting along were it not for a select group of powerful and extremely morally repugnant people who project narratives of racial antagonism. This has been a millennia-long thing. The Romans did it to the Christians have done it to the Jews and to the Muslims. Some Muslims do it to the other Muslims because of the Sunni Shiite thing, and the Christians, they did the Catholics, but they always have to be told. Bigotry is learned. Usually somebody at the top benefits. Now, Tariq Nasheed isn't some globalist leader or whatever. Tariq Nasheed is just a small to middle-sized, very racist person who makes his living off of exacerbating racial tensions. I can't tell you how many times I've seen tweets from him getting ratioed where he's opposing race mixing. It'll be like this loving picture of like a white husband and a black woman, and they'll be taking care of this like beautiful brown kid or whatever, and he'll be like, oh wow, way to destroy your culture. Like that type of stuff, you know? So we get that he race baits, and we get that Tariq Nasheed is not exactly a morally enviable person. Oh, to be perfectly clear, I will be canceled for criticizing Tariq Nasheed. There's a reason for that. And I'm going to get canceled for saying this too, but this is a real thing, okay? There are a fair amount, especially online, of unironic, you know what I'm going to say, anti-white racists. Now, there is a position that most left-leaning people hold, and I believe it too. Systemic racism does not exist against white people in America. Or if it does, it's this very middling, very marginal thing. Like maybe some little edge case here, like that. But the vast, vast, vast majority of it is pro-white, and the vast majority of it is anti-not white. But that's institutional racism. Interpersonal racism can come from anyone against anyone. This is a fairly reasonable take. I hope most people would agree with it. There's nothing biological or sociological that prevents black people from being quite personally bigoted against white people, though the institutions in this country don't allow them to express that bias in a huge and powerful way, which is, I mean, good. Hopefully we can do that with anti-everyone else racism soon too, right? Hey, I want a socioeconomic system where institutional racism is equally impossible for everyone as it is right now for black people. That would be absolutely wonderful. So I want to make it perfectly clear that when I talk about racism on this channel and I complain about it, and boy do I complain about it, I'm usually complaining about institutional racism. When we talk about the police, the criminal justice system, slavery, this is institutional. It's not built and born of individual prejudice. It's built and born of systems that recursively create themselves, that work to self-perpetuate. They're beyond any individual. You can have a racist system completely controlled by perfectly non-racist people. That's totally possible. In fact, that happens. I guarantee you, somewhere around the world right now, or let's just say in America, there is a small town with an internal criminal justice system that is occupied entirely by non-racist people, or at least by people whose racism is so minute, like they're very progressive people. I mean the cops, the sheriffs, the judge. I guarantee you at least somewhere, out of the tens of thousands of communities, there has to be at least one. But the system can still create racist results because the laws, the way those laws are meant to be enforced, and the demographic trends with regards to income and systemic discrimination prior don't need racist people to exist. They can exist on their own. All that being said, I don't think that means it's okay to be interpersonally racist. I actually think it's really shitty, super bad to be that sort of thing. Not just because it has the potential to eventually manifest in a systemic way. I mean, maybe, but because it makes you a bad person. And there are a lot of people on the left who let people like this get away with it because they're not comfortable criticizing black people for racism, which they disguise as pro-black advocacy. But be clear, when somebody like Tariq Nasheed disguises their anti-white racism as pro-black advocacy, they are doing the exact same thing as neo-Nazis disguising their anti-black racism as pro-white advocacy. It is the exact same tactic. Like, down to the letter. Now, I don't think there are that many, like, anti-white people. Certainly not as a proportion of the population. There are some. Black people are people. It's in the name, black people. They're there, you know. And people suck sometimes. Invariably, this is going to be an issue with some groups, some individuals, people being interpersonally racist. Oh yeah, here we go. I remember this. This is this one really makes me sad. Tariq Nasheed's tweet. White couple gets some tap shoes for their black adopted child. This is the sweetest TikTok in the world. Look, it's like they adopted a little black kid and they're got little shoes. It's like cute. It's just nothing but good and wholesome in the context of this video. And this tweet went viral, which means that it got ratioed. But before it went viral, oh wait, I don't even need to say before it went viral. Here's the second top comment. It should be illegal to adopt black children if you're not black. This is racist. I just know it is. Why they never adopting their own race, like they want to change us into something. I don't like this at all. All you black people that see nothing wrong with this, go back and learn your history. Besides, baby toys come in so many varieties, or maybe they could have gotten her one of those baby shoes with the lights on them. Now, why tap shoes? Are tap shoes a white thing? Maybe, I don't know. They acting like this baby wants to tap dance. They could have given that baby any fun activity. They choose this for their baby. And by the way, the parents aren't dancers. True story, my old camp leader adopted a 2-year-old white girl and went to the amusement park. The white girl found a white couple, and when her back was turned, the white girl ran to the white couple and said, "Please save me from this crazy black lady at 2 years old." I don't even know what to make of this last one, to be perfectly... Yeah, and then everyone clapped, I guess. I think the message here is supposed to be that white people naturally gravitate towards white people, or maybe that white people are just naturally racist. So this is all fairly deranged, of course. There aren't that many. Tap dancing is because of minstrels, I think. Okay, sure. Maybe. I think black people should be allowed to... do they think the parents got them tap dancing shoes because they were like, yeah, it'll be funny to watch our 2-year-old child to do a minstrel? No. This is a reach to me. I'm not. Yeah, we're tilting at windmills right now. That's what's that meme? This post and also my cat every morning. Ooh, big stretch. Look. I don't think there are many people who are like explicitly interpersonally anti-white. I've met quite a few of them online because they all seem to dislike me for some reason. I think they're pieces of shit, and morally speaking, I think they're about as bad as anti-black white people. We're not talking about systemic harm, we're talking about their moral worth, and I just think it's a sign of a very bad person to look at a person's skin color and say, from that assessment, this is not a person I want to associate with. This is a person I dislike. I just think that's a bad thing to do and to be. There are a lot of people on the left, though, who enable that type of behavior because they're uncomfortable criticizing it. Now, with cases like Tariq Nasheed, this isn't so much of a problem because Tariq Nasheed is so obviously odious that like everyone's comfortable dogpiling on him, except for the far crazy, like, anti-white people, you know? So, fine. But there are sentiments like that that get reiterated quite a bit. Since when do you believe in moral worth? Don't you judge morality by a person's effect in the world? You judge the moral worth of an action that way, yeah, but when it comes to whether or not you want to associate with a person, or the extent to which you want to condemn an action, I think it's important to take into account factors more than just outcome. Like, for example, do you think that, like, if there was, like, a little, like, 13-year-old white kid screaming about, like, how the Holocaust didn't happen, would you say that it's not that big of a deal because they're young and because the Holocaust had already happened, that there's not really that much of an issue there, you know? Like, because, like, what effect can you actually have on the issue that's being spoken about here? There are broader considerations to be made, like whether or not we're enabling bigoted behavior. And if you actually look about a century in the past, you'll find that the Ku Klux Klan and white separatist and eugenicist groups were very good friends with white separatists, which is one of the reasons why I despise Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey is cited by some as a civil rights leader. I think he's a piece of shit, an anti-race mixing, anti-white and anti-black, anti-Semitic dumb fuck who, what did I say? Black separatists, yeah. Did I say black segregationists? Did I say black Spartist? Well, whatever I meant to say, it was Oh, I said white. Oh yeah, black separatist. My apologies. Well, he worked with white separatists. So he worked with the Ku Klux Klan. I'm just not a big fan of these types of ideas. I think it's important to distance ourselves from them as well because they are really dangerous, both implicitly, explicitly, and optically as well. And it's important to remember that it's going to be really hard to move people over to the left if you see people on the left playing buddy buddy with anti-white racists. It sounds weird saying that, doesn't it? Anti-white racists. In fact, the fact that I have to say anti-white racists distinguishes it, as though the term racism doesn't encapsulate anti-white racism. Isn't that odd? I'm actually going to stop doing that from now on. I'm just going to call them racist. Um, I don't think that's a very good linguistic trend, saying anti-white racist, in large part because it implies that real racism applies to everyone but white people, and that anti-white racism is some aberrant term, kind of like the term white trash. Have you ever wondered why the term white trash is the way it is? It's actually not anti-white racist. It's the other way around. The reason why the term white trash emerged was to distinguish it as being specifically referential to white people as opposed to the normal type of trash, brown people. That's etymologically sort of one of the things that led into it. Like, oh, it's white trash. Like, it's white trash. Like, yeah, like white. But we don't do that with any other, like, negative term, do we? Right. Like, we don't say black thug. The term is already laid in there. White rapper. Nobody says black rapper. The terms are already laid in there. Isn't it classist too? Oh, sure, it's very classist, but I'm speaking to the race issue mostly. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to get at here is that race baiting is bad because it is designed to exacerbate racial tensions. Now, race baiting is typically done by conservatives or reactionaries. What conservatives call race baiting is the opposite of race baiting. When racial issues are brought up and addressed, that is meant to alleviate racial tensions. When conservatives bring up race baiting, it's usually to exacerbate them. Very key difference there. Additionally, racism against white people is bad. It makes you a bad person, and it is harmful in its own ways. You can hurt people's feelings. That sounds trivial, but like, hey, if we can take black microaggressions seriously, then I don't see why we can't take seriously the idea that white people online wouldn't like experiencing racism, even if it's comparatively trivial. It doesn't all have to come back to institutional racism to hurt. I mean, it just sucks. Just not good generally. And finally, I think the left should do a little bit more in general at identifying and distancing themselves from covert racism against white people. So one way in which this is often done is white genocide jokes. I have made jokes about white genocide before. Usually they're done very, very, very tongue-in-cheek. But I've seen this happen quite a bit online where people will make white genocide jokes and then subsequent comments will indicate they're not really making jokes. The Mayo-side jokes, yeah. People will make Mayo-side jokes and then like it'll lay in a little more and then people are like, nah, really though, fuck Whitey. And it's like, wait, okay, hold on. How much are we joking here? Come on, let's not be crazy. This is enabled by the idea many leftists hold that it's impossible to be racist against majority power groups like white people, which has always been, I think, a very poor understanding of the broader issue. They substitute racism and institutional racism for prejudice and racism, which is not only optically bad, because then people would point at Tariq Nasheed and go, wait, is this guy really not racist? And then a left-leaning person would have to say, no, he's just prejudiced. Which, come on, it's a semantics game. But I think a lot of people on the left just are generally unsympathetic to prejudice that is directed against majority power groups. But we're based and male-pilled here, aren't we? We all know that men face serious systemic issues and that we shouldn't shit on men just for being men. Right? Male-pilled, man-pilled, guy-pilled, dude-pilled, right? Based and dude-pilled? Yeah, right? We're all dude-pilled here. Yeah, for sure. Even if you take away all the systemic issue stuff, it's just, you shouldn't be shitty to men. You've seen those feminists that are like that, right? Like, they're like, we're so dangerous and powerful, we're so subversive. We say we hate men a lot. Wow. You're really killing it with the top tier socioeconomic criticism. Just nicely done. I don't mind so much making jokes about straight people because I don't think anyone is made fun of for being straight. Like, for real. I've never seen that happen in my entire life. Outside of, like, always online trans-friendly Discord communities where they might, like, poke a little bit, I've never really seen people really being made fun of. Because there are people out there who hate white people. There are people out there who hate men. I don't really see that so much with cis or with straight people, but as a general rule, you probably shouldn't make those people feel bad for who they are either. Whether or not a joke is acceptable is largely going to come down to context. Does that make sense? Do we all understand that? It's just frustrating to me because Tariq Nasheed does and says a lot of really horrible stuff, but only a couple of his tweets go viral every once in a while. And the reason for that is because a lot of the stuff that he says, while being pretty overtly racist, isn't racist in a way the left seems to care about. And sorry, if I'm trying to bring people over to the left, I can't really do that if, like, behind me, the left isn't willing to criticize, these types of behavior within their own periphery broadly, you know? Well, hopefully that all makes sense. Isn't this kind of the right's fault for using the claim of anti-white racism to trivialize pro-black advocacy? It is the right's fault, but not for the reason you think. Tariq Nasheed is on the right. Anti-white black people are on the right. Remember, guys, being on the left means being pro-equality. Being on the right means being pro-hierarchy. If you're some radical abolitionist separatist black person who wants to create a black ethno-state, you're on the right. Politically, you're just enabling the same fundamental power structures that white supremacists do. You happen to be on the downturn right now, socially speaking, but you want the same hierarchy. You just want it with the different people on top. So they're all on the right. Tariq Nasheed used to be an MRA pickup artist, bro. Well, there you go, doesn't it? There are many liberals and lefties who make racist claims against white people. It happens sometimes, but for the most part, I don't want to over-exaggerate. Being a white person online is pretty easy. I'm not out here claiming that's not the case. I'm only saying the left should probably be consistent in the type of behaviors it finds abhorrent. You know? That's all I'm asking for, really. Because, to be perfectly honest, man, the treatment of that mentally ill kid at the Holiday Inn Express was bad enough as it was, but seeing racist grifters take advantage of it and make it out like some race issue, like the treatment of that white kid was justified because he was white, even though there was nothing racialized at all about the discourse, is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Oh, one other reason to care about issues like this. If I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, chat, fill me in if I'm wrong, the quartering has already gotten his community to raise tens of thousands of dollars for that young man who had the mental breakdown. Issues like this are wedges that reactionaries will use to push their own propaganda. The kid said he didn't want it. What a based fucking Chad. What an absolute Chad. Well, kid, you ever want to come on stream, I'll make any day of the week open to you. I'd love to talk with you. Not about race stuff. We can talk about whatever you want.